guys, welcome back. We are doing another Plan With Me video today, and we're going to jump into the homeschool section of my Homeschool Adventures Planner. And I've already done some work in here, so I'll show you guys what I have already. I've already filled this out. I'm not going to share my personal details with you guys, but I just wanted you to see at the beginning of our homeschool section, you have a space to write down your name of your homeschool, if you have a name. And just a quick thing about homeschool names. I have graduated one from our homeschool so far, and it's important to remember this name for your homeschool is going to be on their diploma when you graduate a student. So if you need to come up with a name for your homeschool, just keep that in mind, that that's actually going to be something that's going to be on your students' transcripts and diploma one day when they graduate, if they graduate from your homeschool. Also, some states give a state ID, so you have a space to record that. If your state doesn't require that, then just don't worry about that line at all. Conferences, if you plan on going to a conference, they're really refreshing for homeschoolers. So if you can go to a conference, it's really nice to be able to do that and just to get that encouragement from other homeschoolers, and just it gives you a chance to be filled up before you go out and spend another year with your kids in your own homeschool. I find them to be encouraging and uplifting for the most part. And then if you have any other important information, you can write it here. If you have a state where you have to meet with someone and show them a portfolio or something like that, you might put their information here. I will probably put the information for the lady we do testing with, because we tend to do the Woodcock-Johnson test with my kids. I just find that it's less stressful on me and the kids, even though it's a little more expensive. In my state, we do have to do yearly standardized tests, so I'll probably put that information there, or I'll just tape her card in there. Either way. My goals and mission, I'm just gonna fill in a couple of things that I've thought of here for this year. I already have written down be consistent. It's so important for me to be consistent in our homeschool. It's very tempting to slack off on hard days and just say, you know what, we'll pick it up tomorrow. But the thing is that then we get into a habit of doing that, and then we don't get a whole lot done for our school year. And I don't like it when that starts happening. That is not a habit that I really want in my homeschool. So I have a goal of be consistent. And I also want to add in here, keep it simple. At the beginning of each year, I think it's important to take some time and think about your goals for the year and come up with something of a mission statement. Why are you homeschooling? Why are you doing this for your children? It's important to keep those things in your mind as you go through your homeschool years. It keeps you from being pulled down by the world or by maybe people that are not so encouraging. I think it's important that each year you kind of refocus your mind and your efforts on your homeschool. Think about your goals and your mission. And it's good to write those things down. So I gave you a space to do that here. The next page is resources and curriculum ideas. So I've already done quite a bit of work on my page here, looking forward to next year. I've written down even things that were just a question in my mind. I just wrote down a bunch of different curriculum ideas that I wanted to research a little bit and think about if we wanted to add those into our school year next year or not. And this is just kind of a brain dump page, so you can really think of any curriculum, any ideas you have for next year. This is where you can write them down. And if you want to further write out maybe pros and cons or information you get about those as you're researching those different curricula, I like to turn to the back of my planner where I have lots of notes sections where I can do that. And I didn't do that this year. I kind of just wrote them down, and then I researched a lot of these and I just thought about them, and I've kept it in the forefront of my mind, so I didn't really feel like writing down more details about these this year. I wrote them down, I prayed over them, And I think we have a good plan for this year at this point. We still have a little time before school starts, so nothing is written in stone. So I am going to write in pencil today as I write in our curriculum that I have chosen. That way, if I do change something, I can come back. The next pages are field trip and activity ideas. This is kind of the same thing as your curriculum ideas page. It's just a place for you to kind of brain dump. Think about all the activities you'd like to do, the ideas that you have for field trips and outings and crafts and any extra fun things like that that you would like to do. You can write them down here. Just get them from your brain to paper, and that will help you kind of make some decisions, just even being able to see those things on paper. And then later on, you can take from that. Again, you can use your notes in the back of the planner if you want to expand on those ideas more. Or you can just leave them right here on this idea page and then take from this as the year goes on. If you have run out of ideas of what to do, you can reference this page throughout the year. Next is the homeschool expenses. If you have a budget for your homeschool, which I think a lot of us do, this is where you write down all of the items that you want to purchase. And I haven't written anything down yet, so I'm actually going to start writing that down. I've already purchased the majority of our curriculum for this year, or we already had it on hand. The curriculum that we use, some of it is not consumable, so my kids can reuse a lot of the books that their older siblings have used in the past, which is really nice. But I am going to take a minute and just write out my expenses right now. I've got my computer to the side here because it's got the information from the purchases that I've recently made for our homeschool expenses. And I'm going to pull the emails up for the things that I've purchased, and I'm going to write them in here. I have just a couple things that I purchased at a used bookstore close by, and I'll add those in as well, but I'm starting on my computer. So I have written down what I recently purchased for our upcoming school year. I purchased it all together from the curriculum company that we like to use. And if I add anything else on, I'll write those in. Like I said, I'm still going to write in the couple of things that I grabbed from our used bookstore. I'm not going to write them in for this video, but I will in the future write them in here. And then as I order more things or pick up school supplies, I'll add those to this as well. And then we will turn to the next page. Next up is our borrowed resources. If you homeschool using a program that you use a lot of library resources, this is the page for you. This has lots of room to write down what it is that you need to borrow, the date that you've borrowed it, and then when it's due back. And you can check it off when you have returned it. So we probably won't use the library a whole lot this year, maybe more just for fun. We actually have most of the books that we own that are going to be for our actual curriculum for the year. So I might not use this page so much this year, but that's okay. If you're like me and you don't really use this page, it's okay. It's okay to have blank pages sometimes. You don't have to fill in absolutely everything if it doesn't fit you and what you need. Remember that your planner is a tool. It's not a master. It's not to rule you. You don't have to go and borrow things from the library or friends just because there is this page here that you feel like you need to fill in. Remember that this is a tool. Moving to the next page, this is a really good reference for me. Sometimes when you just get caught up in doing the everyday, sometimes things will come up, and when those things come up, it'll throw off your day, and that will throw off the next day, and it's kind of a domino effect. So sometimes you just need to readjust and look at your family schedule and get back onto a schedule that works for you. And that doesn't mean just because it's a family schedule and you have the opportunity to write down times here, doesn't mean that you have to. You can also use this for kind of a block schedule or a series of routines that you just go through. So maybe instead of keeping an exact time, you just want to say, in the morning we do these things, and in the afternoon we do these things. That's okay too. If you like to write down a time, I have left a spot for you to do so. but don't be intimidated by these time slots. Don't feel like you have to stick to the exact minute that you've written it down if that doesn't suit your style of learning and the way that your homeschool works. I will fill this out more as we start our school year and see kind of how the flow works this year. So I'm going to add my kids' names to this and mine as well. I'm going to start with my youngest. Also, I just want to make a note that if you have an empty box, that's okay. Don't stress over it. If you have less people than I have to plan for, then use less boxes. Make it work for you and for your family. If you have maybe just 1 or 2 kids and you'd rather plan for the week, you might say, this is Monday, and this is Tuesday, and this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then weekend. If that works better for you, go ahead and do it that way. This is just to kind of give you a launching point and a point of reference that you can come back to and see your family schedule and what's working best for you. I do recommend writing this one out in pencil because you may come back and erase it and kind of tweak it and make it work for you throughout the year. Our next pages are your family lessons, or your lessons that you would learn together, the curriculum you do as a family. This section was made for that. Maybe you like to loop things, like you have a morning time loop and an afternoon loop, or maybe you have just whatever you might want to loop, and you can look more into looping schedules. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that sometime just to show you guys what I mean. But if you like to do a loop for whatever books or curriculum you have in your home, using this kind of schedule will help you to cover more subjects in a week. That's why a lot of people like to use a loop, because you can add in more books and more maybe enrichment kind of subjects into your day by doing it this way. So I've given you space for 3 different loops, and down underneath you have a reading list. So these are the read alouds that you read with your whole family. This is where you can list those things, whether you want to list them out beforehand or whether you want to list them out as you go through the year. Either way works. I usually end up writing down what books we intend to read for the year, and then again I will write that in pencil so I can erase it if we don't end up reading a book. I also like to kind of give a rating of the book just for fun, bit hearts or stars, however you want to do that. That sometimes is fun to do, so you can look back and see how much you really enjoyed the book. When I say rate it, not just you, but have your kids rate it too. Ask them. I usually ask my kids how many thumbs up, and they'll give me thumbs and sometimes toes if they really enjoy something. Right here you have a place to write in your resources for your family subjects. So if you're doing something all together as a family, like maybe history or science, or maybe you're doing some poetry or Bible or something like that, this is where you can write those in. So you would write your subject. Let's say I'm doing Bible all together. We are not this year, but I'm just giving you as an example. You'd write Bible, and then you could write down your resource there, what curriculum you're actually using, or what books you're actually using to accomplish this piece of your learning puzzle for the year. And then the next page, you have lots of these lesson trackers. And on the lesson tracker, you have 36 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks per line here. So if this is a week, then you have 5 days that you can fill out for. So if you're doing Bible, let's say that we're doing Bible together, I'd write down our subject up here. And then if I'm using a formal Bible lesson or a formal Bible curriculum that has lessons, maybe I do a lesson a day. So I would do lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Maybe we don't do school on Friday, so I'll leave that blank. Or maybe we're reading a book. Maybe our Bible time is just reading a Bible storybook or reading the Bible together. So I could say we're going to read Genesis chapter 1. And then over here, maybe we're going to read Genesis chapter 2. Maybe we switch off and do New Testament on this day. and on this day. And I would just keep filling them in like that. And this is for your entire year, really. 36 weeks is a typical school year. Maybe you do less time than that, maybe you do more. That's what I've given you for this space here. I don't think many of us would do school more than 36 weeks out of the year total. Even if you school year round, you end up taking breaks. So this is a good portion of time to schedule school for your year so that you also have enough time to take a break and to give your kids a break, because everyone needs a break sometimes. So that's how you can use this lesson tracker. Also, if you have high school students, say, when you get to the student trackers that look the same as this, you can put their grades in here. So if they have some subject that they're being graded in, let's say for the week they're doing this lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they have a quiz. So I could write quiz, and let's say they got a 92 on their quiz. You can just write it down like that. That is another way that you can use this lesson tracker and also keep grades in this lesson tracker. So moving on, you have for the learning together, you have 4 lesson tracker subjects that you can track. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces here that you can fill in. If you have more than 4, you can split these up, or you can share a lesson tracker. Also, if you have more than 4 subjects that you're planning for, we can go back to the loops here. If you're using a loop instead, so you're adding in multiple subjects, maybe you do more of a Charlotte Mason based curriculum, or you're coming up with your own books that you've added into a loop, you can, instead of doing a subject here, you can make this a loop. So let's say this is my loop 2. We're going to plan out loop 2, and I'm going to write all my resources for loop 2 in here, and then I can use this tracker for loop 2. And then I've got my week in my entire year right here that I can plan out for that loop. So maybe I'm gonna do, let's see, in this loop I could do whatever my resource is. I've got do something 1 time, and then we're gonna do something 2 times, and then we're gonna come back and do this one 1 time. Whatever these books are, you're gonna do this first one 1 time, or you're gonna read 1 chapter of it, and then you're gonna do this next one 2 times, so 2 chapters perhaps. And then the third one we're going to do 1 time before looping back again to the top resource, whatever that resource might be. So for your loop, you could say, well, we're going to do, you can come up with initials for your loop books as well. So maybe we're going to do the first one here, and we're going to do whatever the one that's times 1 there. And then we're going to do the times 2 right here. And then we're going to go to the times 1. You can just write out however it's going to work for you, and that could look very different from person to person and homeschool to homeschool. So I hope that makes sense in a way that you guys can kind of take that information and make it work for you. So here is your loop planning. Here is your place to write out either resources or your loop resources here, subject resources or loop resources here. And then these trackers will help you to kind of plan out your year and how you would like it to look. Now, if you like to plan from behind, these are good for that as well. So if you would, instead of writing down what you want to do in future casting, what you want to do here, you can come back during the year and fill in what you did do. So let's say we're on week 1 of school. I'm going to fill in what we did accomplish. And week 2, I can fill in what we did accomplish, and so on and so forth. So you can use this either by planning ahead or by tracking what you did accomplish. So maybe you have a loop and you don't pay attention to what days you do what. You just keep working through that loop. You can use your tracker then if you would like to see how your loop is working, how you are progressing through it. You can write it down after the fact in your lesson tracker. The last page in the Together Time is right here. This is your Together Time notes and ideas. So you can use this either for this year's notes and ideas or thinking ahead for next year. Get your ideas out on paper, because that really does help a lot of people to make sense of all the things that they're thinking, to do this kind of brain dump. Okay, and then we get into our student section. Oh, I love these student sections. I'm not sure I'm completely ready to fill this out yet. It's a little intimidating to me at the moment, honestly, because it's the middle of summer and I'm still thinking about exactly what we're going to use for next year. But I'm going to get started. Don't let this be intimidating to you. Just get started with what you already know. So first of all, place your child's picture here. I am going to make a note to myself that I want to get pictures of my kids. I'm just going to go just to a nice spot outside of our house here and take their pictures, and I will print them out and I will cut them down to size and place them there. I'll show you how I did it last year just so you get an idea of what I mean. Okay, so like here, I have my son's picture right here from last year and he is so adorable. I love him. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I will take a picture of him for his kind of school picture. I like being able to have their picture here as a keepsake. It makes my heart happy. And then I write down these different things as I meet with him. After I do that picture and I put it in here, because I usually have them involved in that because they enjoy that as well. Then I can ask him what his favorite book is right now, whether it's something that he's read or something that we've read aloud together. Favorite movie, song, favorite outside activity, favorite inside activity. And when I grow up, I want to, and I will write this down as they tell me whatever it is. And sometimes I get some fun information out of them. Sometimes they say exactly the same thing every year, but sometimes they change it up, especially as they start to get older. Underneath that is the attendance tracker. So your attendance tracker, this, in our state, we're supposed to keep attendance. And this is one of the reasons I started keeping a planner in the first place, is because I needed an attendance tracker. And this was years and years ago. And I started doing this in a bullet journal that I used to keep. And it has made its way into my physical planners that I now make. I've used this for years and years, and it's just, I feel like it's the easiest way to track attendance. I'll take one of my markers and I will just mark off the days that we do school. I can actually show you last year's. Okay, so here's last year's attendance for my little boy. I missed putting in May. I can go back and do that though, because back in my weekly pages for May, I will have my tracker filled out of what he did for school. So I can go back and I can mark in those May days that I missed here. But this is what the attendance tracker ends up looking like for us. I started out check marking the days, and then I decided I like doing the marker version better. So I just put a mark with my marker right through the day that we did at school. So I've got his attendance for the year. The blank days are weekends or holidays, time we took off. And that's it. That's my tracker. That's how it works. And it's simple and I enjoy it, and I don't think I will ever change it. Okay. For this next page, I'm going to write out our reading list. So these are books that my son is going to be reading through for the year. And again, you can do this up front or you can do this as you go during the year, whichever way works best for you. And this part right here is where I'm going to write down his subjects and resources. I will go ahead and do that. His things written out now. All of the things that he's doing for his main curriculum this year is right here. And then there's a story time option that goes along with our curriculum, and I've written out those books here. He's doing an emerging reader set from Heart of Dakota this year, and I don't have that list of books at the moment to write down, so I'll write those as we come to them this year, or I'll just come back and write them down later. Either way works. And then This next set of pages is that lesson tracker again, but these are lesson trackers specifically for my son. So for this first one, I'm gonna write in his main guide, and then I'm gonna write in his math right here. And that might be all that I actually track for his lesson trackers this year. I don't need all of them, and that is fine. So I'm gonna skip this page. I might come back and fill that in later with some of his stuff, but it's nice also to have a spot for notes down here for whatever might come up, anything you might need to take note of. And over here is something that has been invaluable to me over the years. There have been some years that I did not really reflect on how our schooling was going, except for maybe once a year at the end of the year, and that left me with not a very good picture of how we were doing because I wasn't making notes of these things. I can't remember everything. So if I go an entire year without thinking about how our behaviors were, how our characters looking, what curriculum is something that my kids are really doing well with, you know, those kind of things, I will start to forget what the beginning of the year looked like so much if I don't think about it until the end of the year. So I take time, and I've added it into the planners here, that you can have a reflection for each quarter of your school year. After the first 9 weeks or so, you know, partway through fall, just stop and take a minute to reflect on what's going on. And same thing, there's for quarter 2, so maybe the beginning of January, you could look at this one. And then you would move into quarter 3, which would be like March, around March, somewhere in there. Take note again of what's going on. And then for the end of the year, whenever you end this, your last reflection space. And then again, you have another spot for your individual resources, ideas for next year. So as you go through your year, if you come up with other curriculum that you think might work better or you want to research more, here's another place to write all of those things down and to make notes on those things. And the same thing for the next student. Every student section is the same. You have the same planning elements for every student that you have until you get to the very end. And I'll fill these out for each of my kids individually. And then we get into July. That's the planning that I'm doing for now in these student sections and in my homeschool section. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments and I will try to answer as much as I can. And I'm sure I will do some more Plan With Me videos in the future, and I will show you guys how I have completed those sections, because it is going to take me a little time to write all of that out, so I'm not going to do that all on this video right now. I'll show you what it looks like after I get their pictures in and everything all set and done. That is the basics for planning in your homeschool section and planning for each of your students. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below and I will answer them. I will see you guys next time as we get into the monthly planning. I'll show you kind of how that works in both the horizontal planner and in the lesson planner. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful summer, and I'll see you next time.